Anyway, joining us now from the Trump Organization, he's the son of the president, Eric Trump. How are you?
That was
Great
such an incredible monologue.
Thank you. Sorry to make you sit through this. Look, you dealt with this in the campaign. You deal with this every day. You see they lie about your father. They twist, they turn, but they wake up and feign all this moral outrage. I would think as a son it's hard, but you also know they're lying.
Yeah. The hypocrisy is unlike anything you can ever imagine, right? You have them attacking Barron. You have them attacking Tiffany. You have them attacking our entire family. You have them out there spewing garbage every single day on CNN and all these other networks about my father, right? Covering nonsense while forgetting about the fact that our economy grew at 4.1%, that we have the lowest unemployment in history, that jobs are coming back to the country, that the stock market's at record high. They forget all about that.
Defeat ISIS, got out of Iran, Jerusalem's the capital of Israel. Oh, and little Rocket Man's not firing rockets.
So they spew nonsense all day, and then little Jim Acosta gets, belittled at a rally, and all of a sudden, I'm holier than. I mean, it's really incredible.
Without detail, has your family been threatened?
I've been threatened. Our family's been threatened. All of us. We've all had white powder show up at our house, right?
By the way, I had an assistant that had to one day, she was quarantined, this poor assistant, for 8 hours because of that.
And by the way, there's no moral outrage about that, right? When Ben Shapiro goes to Berkeley to try and give a speech, right, and there's protests in the street, there's no moral outrage about that. Let the man have freedom of speech. Let him go out there and speak to people who want to listen to him. But when it happens to them, when they're offended by a message, all of a sudden,
did you see what they said about Melania, a Democratic candidate, this week? What they've said about both your sisters.
And you know what? You know how much I was reported? That comment on Melania, which was one of the truly most disgusting things.
Yeah.
You know what they said about that? Nothing. You know who was the only person who actually really, came to Melania's band? Was Laura Ingraham. Laura came out and she was punching and punching.
Hello.
And you, obviously.
Okay, hello, I'm here.
But you know what? Yep. No one else in the media did anything about it, and it's disgusting.
By the way, she is the loveliest woman.
It's true.
Your little brother is a great kid.
Yep.
Why does he have to turn on a television set with a decapitated, bloody, severed head of your father?
Yep.
And by the way, that person was employed by CNN at the time.
And no one ever says anything about it. And then when a couple people chant, CNN sucks. All right, CNN sucks because of this biased coverage and everything else.
By the way, Eric,
all of a sudden, everybody starts crying. It's really incredible, Sean.
CNN sucks.
I agree.
The problem with them, and I tried to give them advice, of course they're not going to listen, is I don't even think, it's sort of like I was watching Peter Strzok that day, and he seems like he believes he's a super patriot, that he knew better than the American people. We're going to stop him. We're going to have an insurance policy. We need to get to the bottom of that, and of course we will eventually. But it's sort of like the media. They never thought he could win. They mocked that he was running. He beat 16 other people. He beat the Hillary Clinton machine, even with a fix-in and an investigation into her, and won against him, which you didn't know about.
Downplay it. Now they downplay it. It's really amazing. During the campaign, my father said, what, my biggest goal, if I could achieve 3% GDP growth, I would absolutely love it, right? So now he's at 4.1% GDP growth, right? And they're not even touting that. They were mocking him when he said he could achieve 3. He'll never achieve 3. The New York Times came out and said he'll never achieve 3% GDP growth. Economists think he's lying about that. Then he achieves 4.1% growth, and they don't even compliment him on doing it.
I'm actually
they forget about it.
If he cured cancer,
they wouldn't give him credit. No, they wouldn't give him credit. Of course not.
Okay, so now the question is, it seems that the people are now aware of what the media's agenda is. So to me, this midterm is about the 6 items that I just mentioned. You are even working on 2020 already. But we got an election in 96 days. What do you say to those people that maybe only go out for presidential elections and there's a lower turnout in midterm election years?
Well, listen, I think we're going to do very, very well. And I think this country, by every quantifiable measure, is doing better today than it's ever done before. People are seeing that. And I think, listen, you started the opening monologue with the fact that he's above 50% in the polls right now, right?
I think he polls low, too.
His highest ever. Yeah, and I think you're right. There's probably extra factor in there. Our economy is doing incredible. Our stock markets are off the chart. He's actually defending this country from NATO, from getting ripped off.
Trade deals.
Unemployment, trade deals, everything. The deal that he just struck with the EU last week.
Imagine you're in a position and things are getting better, and for when America does well, the Democrats and the left-wing media, they're mad because they're proven wrong.
They should be mad. They should be mad because right now they have nothing to run on. They have no leadership. They have no message. They don't stand for anything. He's doing well by every quantifiable measure. So the only thing that they can do is, oh, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's a this, he's a that, right? The same soundbite that they've used for the last 3 years that hasn't worked at all.
They've used it for the 30
They have
years
nothing.
I've been in
What
radio
do they
and
stand
TV.
for? They stand for what? High taxes? Is that what they stand for? They stand for
the crumbs.
Getting rid of,
open borders, Obamacare.
Open borders, getting rid of ICE, brave men and women who are fighting for the safety of our families, of our children every single day. Is that what they're going for? They're going to lose that all day long, Sean. They're going to lose that all day long.
Great to see you again. Congrats on the baby, too. I saw a picture. Very cute.
Thank you. Thank you. He's a good little
looks
good
like
little
cute,
guy.
Mom.
Good.
Yeah, I'm teasing. All right, when we come back, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, and the great one, Mark Levin, straight ahead.
Republicans just passed the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country. And the Democrats want to lift them way up. Remember that when you go to vote, they want to end your tax cuts and they want to lift it up so they can waste your money on a lot of nonsense.
All right, that was President Trump earlier tonight at his Pennsylvania rally. Joining us now, the author of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. You know districts as well, if not better than anybody I know. I've reminded this audience that I was the MC the night you became Speaker. It was the first time that Republicans took the House in 40 years. So in off-year elections, midterm elections, the party in power at the White House usually loses on average 15 seats. Some years it's more, some years it's even a little less. There are 100 competitive races. 86 are deemed Republicans defend districts. That's a lot of defending. They got to win 61 of those seats and 3 of the 14 Democratic seats that are in play.
Well, look, I think we have 2 futures this fall. You know, back in October of 2016, when you and I were among the very few people who thought Donald Trump could win, and all of these same experts, everybody right now who's talking about a blue wave, was convinced Hillary was going to win. Just go back and pull up the clips and the quotes. It's embarrassing. Now, what happened? Well, what happened was Trump had the guts to fight it out. He had the guts to go nose to nose with Hillary. He had the guts to take on the elite media. He had the guts, no matter what the poll said, to campaign 5 or 6 or 7 rallies a day. So where are the House Republicans? This is not complicated. I've done this for my whole life. Joe Gaylord and I, and you know Joe, who helped design the '94 campaign, are writing a brief paper right now to say to House Republicans, you know, suck it up. If you're prepared to go nose to nose with the left, and you're prepared to tell the truth, and you're willing to wage a national campaign, you want open borders, or do you want to control who comes in the U.S., including M.S. Thornstein gangsters? You want really great economy, really great growth, or do you want to go back to food stamps, dependency, big government, et cetera? Go down the list. We have a chance here for a historic election to give the American people an honest choice between a radical, extremist Democratic Party in which the progressive wing is gradually being destroyed by the radical extremists, or they can try to appease the elites. And I'll tell you, if they run a district-by-district campaign, they will lose the House. It is impossible in the modern era. You're proof of it. Rush Limbaugh's proof of it. You're in 435 districts every day. And so Republicans got to decide they're going to win the fight. They're going to win the argument. They got all the issues on their side. But the question is, do they have the courage?
Let me ask you this. So the president tweets out about Robert Mueller, tweets out about Jeff Sessions, about the witch hunt. He was very clear in saying that, no, it's fake news. Most media is not the enemy of the people, but the fake news ones are, because they don't tell the American people the truth. What does the president do? How should he be dealing with this cloud that has been hovering over his head with no evidence whatsoever? Like, for example, Paul Manafort. There's nothing about Russia, nothing about the president, nothing about the campaign, nothing about collusion. It was a 2005 tax case, but Hillary Clinton's never been indicted. How does he navigate what he believes and what I also agree with is unfair and a witch hunt leading into this midterm?
Look, I think he can do three things that would be very decisive and that would change the whole picture. The first is, let me just point out to everybody in the audience, 98 or 99% of what Mueller's doing is not covered by Sessions' recusal over the Russian campaign incident. 98 or 99%. Sessions, if he did his job, could intervene tonight or tomorrow and would be totally within his authority, and he should. Number two, the president ought to take every single example we're talking about and simply declassify it. I mean, I want to see every decision memo about Benghazi where the Obama team consciously decided to lie to the American people. I want to see all the decision memos about Hillary Clinton. The president can order them released. I mean, he has the ability by executive order to say, I want them out by next Thursday. Don't give me this baloney about it's going to take 22 years. Get them out. Third, I think we ought to look very carefully at what this case is all about. Mueller has hired a bunch of very left-wing Democrats. They are clearly a hunting party. And I think the president should challenge Mueller head on. Mueller, he should say to the president, he should say to Mueller, I dare you to hold a press conference and tell the American people any evidence you have that you think is relevant to why you were originally hired. Give us any evidence you have, because I don't think Mueller has any evidence, and I think it'll be embarrassing at how little he knows.
I think this Manafort
what
case,
he's done is he's gone over there.
I think that's embarrassing. A 2005 tax case, the judge even said it, put the screws to him so he sings or composes to either prosecute or impeach Trump. Let's not kid ourselves. And the judge said that to Mueller's team. All right, Mr. Speaker, good to see you. As always, thanks for being with us. All right, when we come back, the great one, Mark Levin, he wants to weigh in on all things Mueller, Manafort, and much more. Straight ahead.
We're being hindered by the Russian hoax. It's a hoax, okay? I'll tell you what, Russia's very unhappy that Trump won, that I can tell you. I was the one that let out 60 diplomats. I was the one that complained about the fact that Germany is paying billions of dollars for a ridiculous pipeline coming into Germany. They're paying billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. I was the one that complained about it.
All right, that was the president just a short time ago. His rally in Pennsylvania, ripping the Russia hoax. And just moments ago, President Trump, he arrived at Morristown Airport in New Jersey, as I believe he is headed for Bedminster. Joining us now with reaction on this and so much more is the host of the #1 rated cable show, 10 o'clock on Sunday evenings, Life, Liberty, and Levin. Thank me. God bless us. And the host of CRTV's CRTV's Levin TV.
Life, Liberty, and Levin.
Who has an entire
Levin
network
TV.
named after them except you?
Yes.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you? By the way, for 5 seconds, I want to join you in celebrating Rush Limbaugh's 30 years, who made it possible for all of us to do what we do. The man has taken more spears and arrows, and it's such a great honor to call him my friend, and what he's done for this country is really incalculable. Anyway, go right ahead.
Well, I got to tell you, and I mean this, without talk radio for 30 years and him leading that way and forging that path, and without Fox, I honestly, let's talk about Acosta and how corrupt this news media is. And they're a bunch of crybabies. Oh, they're calling us fake news. Oh, they're incite. That's not violence. That's called freedom of speech. It's like, I guess they have freedom of the press to lie like they do.
I would say this. You know, a lot has been said about the president calling fake news the enemy of the people. I have a different take on this. Why do the press hate the American people? Over 65 million people, give or take, voted for Donald Trump for president of the United States. I wrote this down. Various press outlets, reporters, hosts, or their guests have called millions and millions of Americans Nazis, racists, deranged, cultists, deplorables, and even worse. How do the press in this country justify calling tens of millions of people such outrageous names? And we conservatives have watched as the press have destroyed, as they're seeking to destroy Trump, Palin, Bork, Clarence Thomas, Ronald Reagan, the list goes on and on and on. The D.C. press corps today is the least professional press corps in my lifetime. They think that their job is to make it impossible for the president to function, to sabotage him, and to advance the cause of the ideologues, to advance the cause of a rogue prosecutor by the name of Mueller. And so the press really needs to be circumspect, take a look at itself. It won't. As long as they keep putting clowns like Jim Acosta out there, who is a drama queen of sorts, and who like to report on themselves and talk about themselves, as long as it's impossible to tell a late-night comedian from Jake Tapper and Jake Tapper from the porn star and all the rest of it, this is going to be the reaction of the American people.
Well, if it wasn't so important, this is where, you know, thank God the American people have choices. And that we're a part of it is an honor, and I feel blessed to be able to do this, as I know you do. Let me ask you this and let you put on your attorney's hat for a minute. For those that don't know, you were the chief of staff for, I think, one of the greatest attorney generals ever, and that was Ed Meese. Why would they ever allow an illegitimate investigation run by Mueller and his merry band of Democratic donors to interview President Trump when there's no evidence? Collusion's not a crime, no evidence whatsoever. It's been a witch hunt from day one. Look at what they're doing with Manafort.
I think Attorney General Meese at this point would have stepped in. I honestly do. And Newt Gingrich was onto something there. Much of the power being exercised by the Deputy Attorney General in lieu of the Attorney General has nothing to do with Jeff Sessions' recusal. Jeff Sessions will not be attacked by the media as long as he's quiet. The minute he speaks up or does something, he will be attacked. Look, the Manafort trial, here's what I don't get. Most of the issues they're raising, if he did all these things, bank fraud, embezzlement, tax fraud, and all the rest, and he did it during the Obama administration, who was the FBI director? Mueller. Mueller was the FBI director. He did nothing about it, apparently, when he was the FBI director. Apparently, they didn't know anything. So now Manafort is the campaign chairman for Donald Trump, and they throw 17 left-wing Democrat prosecutors at the guy who worked for the special counsel. That is a matter for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia. That's number one. Now, Mueller's pushing the other cases to the Southern District of New York. Then they set up Lieutenant General Mike Flynn. Then they have a few lesser lights here where they get for false statements or something like that. What the hell do we have this special counsel for? You don't want to know why? Because he wants Trump, and he wants to interview Trump, and he wants to get him on obstruction of justice. And now he's threatening, I hear,
perjury trap,
that what he's going to do, you see, is issue a subpoena to pull the president in front of a grand jury. Let me tell you something, Mr. Mueller. You're not the king of the universe. And I hope the president's lawyers are listening to me and the president right now. Here's what you should tell Mr. Mueller. Have a meeting with him and tell him, you're unconstitutional under the Appointments Clause. What you're doing is unconstitutional as far as we are concerned. We are not going to bow to you. This is the office of the President of the United States. You are a rogue prosecutor. Now get the hell out of my office and make sure the door doesn't hit you in the ass. I'll see you in court. That's the beginning and the end of it as far as I'm concerned.
Let me ask you, I'm watching this thing on Manafort. I don't know what Paul Manafort did in 2005. I don't think Donald Trump knew who Paul Manafort was in 2005. We know Judge Ellis was right.
Well, apparently Mueller didn't. He was the FBI director at the time.
I don't think the president knew him. I don't think anybody knew. But they pulled this out of mothballs just to put the screws to him so they could get him to sing or compose, as Judge Ellis said, so that they could prosecute or impeach Trump. In this whole tax case from 2005, there'll be no talk of Russia. There's going to be no talk about the campaign. There'll be no talk about his work for Donald Trump. There'll be no talk of collusion. This is just a cheap attempt to literally go after a guy they never would have gone after because they're trying at all costs to get the president.
And so the question is, Rod Rosenstein, who gives a rubber stamp to all this and created this in the first place, by appointing his dear friend, the man he first worked for at the Justice Department, Mr. Mueller, who was best friends with Mr. Comey. What a colossal disaster. You have Jeff Sessions, a man I've known for 30 years, who's sitting this out. He shouldn't be sitting it out. These are constitutional issues. And quite frankly, Mr. Mueller can't keep hiding behind his 17 left-wing Democrat donor prosecutors. Where the hell is Congress? I want to know. what Mr. Mueller thinks he can do under our Constitution. I want to know what Mr. Mueller thinks he can do under those 2 Department of Justice memos as well.
Mark, you know when I say tick-tock, something big is coming that will blow this all out of the water. Thank you for being with us, the great one, Mark Levin. When we come back, Pastor Darrell Scott, he will join us saying that the president is probably the most pro-African-American president he has seen in his lifetime. He'll be here with Darrell Parks, and we've got the numbers next.
You've heard this, but I'm going to say it over and over because I'm really proud of it. Remember I said, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? African Americans, so many others. I said, what do you have to lose? You have high crime rates, you have horrible education, you have this. I went through a list of 10. That's what happened. African American, Hispanic, Asian. You have the lowest level of unemployment in the history of our country. How does somebody fight that, right? How does somebody fight it?
The president earlier tonight talking about how unemployment numbers for minorities, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, our vets, and 14 states, all record lows. Now, and yesterday, a friend of the show, our friend Pastor Darrell Scott, who also serves as the CEO of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump CEO, had this to say about the president during a White House meeting with inner city pastors. Take a look.
To be honest, this is probably going to be and I'm going to say this at this table, the most pro-black president that we've had in our lifetime because, and I try to, analyze the people that I encounter. This president actually wants to prove something to our community, our faith-based community and our ethnic community. The last president didn't feel like he had to. He felt like he didn't have to prove. He got a pass. This president this administration is probably going to be more proactive regarding urban revitalization and prison reform than any president in your lifetime.
And Pastor Darrell Scott joins us now along with attorney Darrell Parks. All right, Darrell, the numbers are in.
Hi.
Simple question. Is the African-American community, Hispanic community, women in the workforce, Asian Americans, vets, are they doing better under President Trump? Or did they do better under 8 years of Obama?
We don't know which Darrell you're talking
to. Darrell Parks. All right, I'm sorry.
Well, Sean, what we want to see the president really address issues.
I asked you a specific question. No diversion.
No, well, I'm talking to the education issue, though.
Is the African American community and all these minority communities, are they doing better under Trump or Obama?
Sean, historically black colleges are not doing better. Students who need need-based financial aid are not doing better.
How about unemployment and the economy, Trump or Obama?
But here's the challenge. What actually did President Trump do to help unemployment?
You know, Pastor, when you don't want to answer a question, that kind of means I put him in a corner called checkmate. I play chess. He can't answer this question because he knows the answer is Trump. It's not Obama. Pastor Scott.
Listen, unemployment is at an all-time low. I've lived through 12 different presidents, and contemplating that fact, this president is the only one that I'm aware of, and I'm aware of the prison initiatives, the urban revitalization initiatives. He's focusing and concentrating on making a concerted effort to improve the quality of living for Black America. So it's easy for me to say what I said on yesterday because, I lived through a lot of different presidents, and I haven't seen any other take a proactive stance towards Black America like this president is doing.
Darrell Scott? I'm sorry, Darrell Parks?
Well, let me say this. I think on the pro-black issue, for example, this president is not appointing black judges, Sean. And so that point alone, show me the numbers as to where he's appointing black judges to the federal bench.
We had disproportionately in the Obama years, when you look at the millions more in poverty, food stamps, out of the labor force, not buying homes, the Black and Hispanic community were disproportionately impacted. Now the opposite has happened, and you can't even say, good job, President Trump. It's good for everybody.
Good job, President Trump, but we have other issues.
So we should vote for President Trump now?
No, but I want to see President Trump put more blacks in his administration. We don't see black faces in his administration.
Pastor.
But listen, Brother Parks, listen. When people ask me why aren't there more blacks in the administration, I ask them where were those blacks during the campaign? Us blacks that worked with him during the campaign were vilified, ostracized, called Uncle Toms, coon sellouts, and everything else. Now all of a sudden you got black people that were told to stay away from Trump during the campaign. Now you're saying, well, where's all the black people he's supposed to hire? Where were they at then?
But Pastor Scott, he can still appoint black people to his cabinet. There's no reason that blacks should not be appropriately represented in U.S. government. It's only right.
All right, we're going to let you.
There's been Carson in the cabinet, and I'm working with him. So what do you want?
By the way, Daryl Parks,
we need more than one.
Do you realize Pastor
Scott
let me preach from the pulpit at his church? It was the worst moment I did terrible.